Jess T on countryradio.uk, and today I have Connor from the Southern Gothic with me. How are you, Connor?
I'm doing quite well. How are you, Jess?
Not too bad, not too bad. Where are you right now? You're over in Nashville, am I right?
Yeah, it's sitting in my studio here in Nashville.
You're in Nashville. Sorry, I just had a dog squeaking a toy right there.
Yeah, you gotta love COVID and the weird stuff that happens while we're doing.
Exactly. We're doing these streams, and we have animals and children and lighting and technical issues and everything happening. The things that we now have to go with and work, find a way around it.
Yeah.
You're over in Nashville, and how are you doing out there?
I'm doing really well. Things are good here, and took us a good year, but we've sort of figured out how to work, via Zoom and Skype, and it's you don't notice it so much when you're talking like this, but that little 1 second delay makes it almost impossible for two people to play guitar together. Because I think I'm playing with you, but I'm a half second behind, so he's hearing, I'm all off whoever I'm playing with. So it took a while, but we're figuring it out.
You're quite right in mentioning that, and that's something that people are communicating by Zoom across the world because of circumstances right now. But you're absolutely spot on. As a musician, it just doesn't. It's hard. It's really hard. It's a whole new set of learning that every artist have had to do, and musicians together and bands who know each other so very well now have to find some new way to work this magic.
Yeah, absolutely. So. But I think it's finally starting to get there, and we're all adapting. So
we have to. So tell us all about yourself, Connor. Because I know that you are part of a 4-piece band, and it's your Christian, Jeff, Sean, and Quinn. Is that right?
Actually, my name's Connor Christian, and then we got Sean and Quinn, and actually Yanni Reinecke is our guitar player nowadays.
Oh, fantastic. So you've had some changes. I know that you have been together quite some time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The band.
2007, am I right?
Yeah, that's about right. And even before that, Sean and I were playing together, and that band just sort of evolved into this band. So for him and I, it's been more than 16 years, and the band as a whole, 12 and a half or so.
Wow, so it has been a long time.
Yeah.
And in that time, you put out 2 albums.
Yeah. We put out 2 full-length records. We put out a live record, a couple of singles here and there.
Yeah, you certainly have. And you've done quite a bit of touring too.
Oh, man. Starting in about 2004, I did more than 200 shows every year until 2015 was the last year we did 200. So it's a lot of shows.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you must be, missing it,
I am. It's funny. Somebody asked me, yesterday, somebody asked me, I was doing an interview, and they said, well, what was the inspiration for this new record? I was like, well, I missed getting on stage. So I put together a record so I could go and play for people on stage. And then now, ironically enough, we got the record, but no stages.
It's unbelievable. It's like if we're going to take away with another, but there are so many positive things to be found in this time. There have been some good things, certainly.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how did the band start? Would you mind telling me, Connor? I'd love to know the story behind it.
Oh, not at all. I had kind of come out of a band, had a record deal with a band, and it was not really my style, but it was some friends who were insanely popular in this part of the country, and asked me to join up and be one of the singers in their band, and I did that, and that was really great, and put me on a lot of big tours, and made a lot of connections, and after that, that had been like the 3rd band in a row that was someone else's band that I had just joined, and so so this was my first attempt at kind of making my own solo thing, and it started off doing cover shows, and as I wrote songs and as I got better at being the lead or even the only songwriter, we did less and less covers and more and more originals, and we slowly lulled people into a false sense of security, thinking they were going to hear all their favorite radio hits, and they started coming out every weekend to see us, and then slowly we just started taking away the covers, and nobody noticed. So
wow, that's interesting.
Origin, yeah.
So you kind of, essentially, rather than transitioning from a covers band to an originals band, you've just kind of done it organically.
Yeah, just like a little sneaky. Just first week we do one original. Next week we'll do 4, and then as the
it's also gauging how the audience reacts and responds to each of your songs, and how they feel. How they feel for you, how they feel for the audience. When you get that feel, I suppose you can build on that.
Yeah, well, it was funny because when we started the cover band, I started just with songs I knew, and the songs that I knew were all the songs from my teenage years, and all my first band. So we did all the Pearl Jam and the Nirvana and all the grunge rock, even like Rage Against the Machine and Marilyn Manson.
Wow.
So we were doing all this like really heavy music. And then all of our early stuff was all me on piano. So we would, do a bunch of these heavy songs, and then I'd sit down and play a bunch of my stuff. And it was weird that people didn't find it stranger than they did. People just accepted it, and I guess the songs were good enough that they maybe didn't realize that they weren't cover songs. I don't know, but we got lucky and they accepted it, and we moved out of cover band land as quick as we possibly could.
That's really interesting. That's a very interesting transition, because it doesn't always work that way. So it's really unique to hear each artist's experience of how you transition, because just to come onto the scene as a originals artist can be quite daunting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be on the scene as an original artist that's been doing it for 20 years, it's still pretty daunting.
Really?
So, yeah, sometimes you're just like the landscape changes every 18 months, and you're like, wait, I thought we were doing Facebook. No, Facebook is only for old people. Okay, we're doing. Like, wait, somebody told me, it's like, when are you gonna start a TikTok? I'm like, I am not.
No, I'm not doing it. Don't do it. Let's hold on to that generation. Not yet.
Yeah. So I've got daughters. They'll do TikTok, or probably by the time they're ready to start really doing music for the masses, they'll be something else entirely.
There will be.
There'll be some sort of a hologram type situation. I don't know.
There's an incredible evolution in the way that we we obtain music now.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic and scary at the same time. But it is certainly an evolution, and thankfully we still keep to the basics. And it's really interesting when you hear about backgrounds. It seems so many country music artists have come from a rock background, and I find that really, really, I want to know why.
Well, at least from my point of view, and I don't know, what it's like in the UK, but here there's no popular rock bands. It doesn't exist. You've got like maybe 4. You've got, Foo Fighters, who are 100 years old, but they're still like the big popular band. You've got Kings of Leon. You got maybe Muse, but there's not, Ex Ambassadors, and Imagine Dragons. But after that, like what rock bands exist? They don't. What you have for rock and roll music is the more rock and country music. It's like everybody that was doing rock music, that's now country music. You see big stadium rock shows, guys like Jason Aldean or, Eric Church. That's rock and roll now. So, to me, that's the way it's evolved here anyway.
Yeah, you're right. You are right. It's definitely perception, but I think you are quite right in that it does still form the basis of the genre, as much as country forms the basis of so many others. Rock is underlying in so many too. So it's really interesting that seems to be like an inevitable pathway from rock over to country. And I think as we get older, perhaps we're maybe more experienced and more lyrically minded, maybe have more stories to tell, and that's why we perhaps get closer and seem to go down the country road. I mean we've all grown up with it anyway. it's generational.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. I think it's the lyric side, perhaps. Do you agree with
I think that does have a lot to do with it. Although, you know, that's not always the case in country music. I think it's a lot more often the case than in any other kind of music where the lyrics are you know, central to it. You still have some songs that are nonsense that make it in country, but it's a lot less. You know, yeah. So, but it's like, it's almost like, you know, any kind of music now. It's like, okay, we'll take one rock band, that's the beginning, and then add some other stuff, and it becomes another thing. But it's like rock band is like the bedrock of all, you know, all music nowadays. So
I think so. So when do you think you decided to go into country? How did that kind of come about for you guys? Was it another sort of organic thing?
Yeah, you know, honestly, it was quite by accident when we were, you know, doing the cover thing, and I was writing a lot of songs, and in my head, I wanted the band to be a lot like Elton John, like Tumbleweed Connection era, you know, kind of when he was doing his semi-country thing back in 1971 or whatever. That was a big record for me that, you know, made me want to really buckle down and learn to play piano. I'd never played piano until my 20s. And so, you know, I tried to transfer all the guitar knowledge over and then concentrate on becoming a better player. And so, you know, we started off with that kind of, you know, pop rock twang, you know, infused thing. And we were making a record, and actually I had just been at a bar in Atlanta and saw this guy. This guy was like almost 7 feet tall. This is like the super tallest guy. And he was playing fiddle, and the fiddle looked ridiculous in his hands. He was this huge man, and the fiddle was like this, it looked like this, but he was wailing on it. And we were just getting ready to record a CD here. And I was like, you know what? A couple of these songs could maybe use some fiddle on it. And you know, called it, you know, got his number at his gig, and he came by the studio, and half an hour laid down fiddle tracks on 3 of our songs. And sure enough, those were 3 of the most popular. People were like, oh, I love that song with the violin. And so we started bringing in a fiddle player. And then when you bring in a fiddle player, then you know, all country hell breaks loose. So you gotta, yeah, it does. It's like, now we need a banjo, and now we need yeah. So it's just sort of you know, it's just like one little happy accident sort of you know, pushed us into the beginnings of being a country band. And you know, I think we embraced it along the way, and especially when we you know, we decided we could be a country band, and we could still kind of retain our own identity and whatever that means to us. We didn't need to be, you know, this country. We didn't need to be Tim McGraw.
No, it's not always about boxing it in, is it? You know, and it's about still, like you say, retaining your individuality. And if there's still elements of rock, elements of different genres or different flavors, different feels, then that, as long as it comes from the heart, as long as it's part of you, what you've learned on your journey, then I think that still keeps you authentic, regardless what genre you fall into. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. You know, and that kind of leads to the new record, and you know, we spent, you know, all our old material, all the stuff that we've done in the past has been stuff that's kind of worked out on the road. Like, I'll write a song, but then we'll play it 200 times before we record it, you know, and so, you know, because we've been playing, you know, on the road so much and tested it out. And so by the time you get in the studio, you know, where every like yeah and ooh goes, you know, it's not just the lyric. You don't have to experiment, you know it. Now with this new one, you know, I've been, you know, in Nashville writing songs for other people and not on the road. And so it was a real different experience. And I was able to kind of bring in some of those early influences that made me love music as a kid. You know, when I was a teenager, you know, it was the hard rock. When I was a little older, you know, and I got into Elton John and Robbie Robertson, Levon Helm, the band, you know, those kind of twangy rock, you know, country infused things. But now, you know, when I was looking for inspiration here in Nashville, I looked back to, you know, my childhood and the stuff that, you know, made me even, you know, even in my, you know, year one elementary class, you know, I have a little, you know, my mom gave me this little art project that I made. I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you open it up, and I've drawn myself with a microphone. You know, I was like, I want to be a singer. And, you know, who made me want to be a singer? It was, you know, Michael Jackson, it was Madonna, it was Paula Abdul, it was the Bangles. You know, those were the, you know, that's what spoke to me as a kid. That's what, you know, those were the first times for me that music was magic, and, you know, took me to another place, especially growing up like I did. My dad worked in embassies all over the world. So we lived in Jakarta, we lived in Seoul, Korea, we lived in Brussels. And so sometimes the only thing that could give me a little bit of home was
grounding,
you know, and you know, sometimes those pop artists took me back home, and you know, they did it again this time when I was, you know, writing this record. You know, they brought me back to a place I hadn't been in a while, and you know, we were able to kind of fold that into our sound, and you know, still be who we were, but, you know, just show a different side.
That's amazing, and you're absolutely right. You know, growing up with music is also, you know, the foundation for most artists, and its effect on you. And certainly, if it gave you that ability to transport back to, you know, home in your mind, when you were in places that were you know, different for you. It's really, really interesting that still gave you that capacity to be home in your mind. So, I mean, that's what music does, of course. So what influenced your first two albums? And you also, you know, you took a break for a while. I'm right, aren't I? That you took some time out and then reformed and came back to the music in 2018. So that was 4 years that you had out, actually. Is that right?
And we toured through the end of 2015, and I took 16, 17, and most of 18 off.
Right.
I moved after the success of New Hometown, and you know, having some chart success, and, you know, the video doing well. I had a couple offers to come up to Nashville and write for publishers here, write for other artists, and so I did. I came up here in 2015. Nashville is only about 3.5, 4 hours drive from Atlanta, where I had, you know, lived most of my adult life.
Yeah. And
yeah, and I had an offer to write, and I came up here, signed on with a company called Dan Hodges Music, and wrote an unbelievable number of songs for other people. And you know, and this record that we're putting out, you know, now is just kind of the songs that some of my favorites from that period that I wrote for other people that maybe didn't get released, or, you know, in one case, there's a song on the record called Classic that got released twice. Got released by an artist in Australia, and got released by an artist here, and neither one of them really did, you know, anything, you know, didn't do big numbers with it. And so, you know, we checked with them. We're like, hey, is it going to bother you if we put it out too? And everybody was cool with it. So, you know, these are just my favorite songs from that you know, that downtime, where I was not, you know, not actively on the road, not actively playing all the time, but I was certainly still, you know, that's all I do. Music is my whole world. So, you know, that's what I've been doing in the meantime.
Of course. So that's why this time must have been, you know, so it's, you know, a lot of people do it as a hobby. We know that. A lot of people do it as a sideline, and a lot of people literally give up everything else and dedicate their life for their dream. So you know, the current situation has made that very difficult. But in the meantime, you know, what keeps you going? I know that you've got new music out. You know, I've played your single out. You know, how are you doing with the future plans as well?
You know, we're really excited for the future. This, you know, this song has been getting, you know, really solid reviews, a lot of press. And, you know, I think that when the record comes out, that people are going to be excited about it. And, you know, we are keeping our fingers crossed that May or June maybe is the time when we can get back out on the road. You know, we're not going to count on it. We've already canceled 2 tours. So we're not going to, I'm not going to base my whole life around it, but we're certainly hoping to, you know, to do it. We've, you know, already, well into, putting together the next record.
Yep.
We've got more than enough songs for it, but of course, continue writing every day. And, we take, anytime there's a new one that's better, the bottom one on the bunch gets pulled, and, the new one gets added to the stack. So, I'd love to be having the same conversation next year about another new record, and we'll see.
And so, Past Midnight, it did very well. How did you feel about releasing that?
That was that was a it was a scary moment, because that song is the most different of anything we've ever done. I wrote that with a couple of buddies here in Nashville, and one of them, Keith Hetrick, is also the producer on that. And Keith has been killing it the past few years. Got a couple of number ones here in the States, and had Grammy nomination. And then the past year, he's just constantly, anytime you look in the K-pop, the J-pop charts, like, he's got at least one song in the top 10 at all times. So Keith wanted to try country, and I've been leaning pop, and I was like, well, let's mix it up, see what we can do. And this was it was a big step away from our normal thing. And so obviously there's some apprehension, but I think in the end, just the fact that I felt like it was a really strong song, that whether or not it was exactly what people expected from us, it was a good song, and I felt like that it had the possibility of reaching the most people of everything on the record. So we made a video, put it out, did all that.
Absolutely, and it has obviously resulted in so many of us over here in the UK certainly learning who you are, finding out about you, and it feels like I know you've been around some time, and then suddenly it feels like you've just kind of catapulted to the scene now for everybody to see who you are, and that hopefully gains you another big level of artists and artists to work with, followers, and fans and everything else. People connecting with you and your music.
Yeah, and honestly, if things kind of continue on the track that they're on, we've already started discussions with a couple of folks over in the UK, and doing the next record there, and maybe if it's resonating with fans over there, then maybe we find somebody over there to produce the record that can give it maybe a little different look.
Fantastic. Yeah. You said that you have written for other artists. Are there anyone that we may know?
Probably not. It's a lot of Americana artists. There's a guy named Tom O'Connor over here that he kills it. He's like big in the Texas country scene, and he's a good buddy of mine, and we write together all the time. And then there's just like a lot of weird Nashville stuff. Like my neighbor, the house that backs up to mine, he's an Old Crow Medicine Show, and so see those guys all the time, and so maybe those two, but not but no real hits.
Well, that's really interesting. But the thing is that regardless, these are people that learn from you, and you learn from them. So in your journey, and like I say, it's been some time. You've been doing this. Well, you've probably been doing this your whole life, really. But yeah. So how do you find influences along the way? People that you meet, people that you write for, but also people that. I guess when you write for people as well, you have a version of that song in your mind, and then someone takes it and sings it, and you go, oh my gosh, I didn't hear it like that. So do you find that you found influence in that way over time from the people that you've worked with?
Absolutely. We wrote one of the tracks on this record. It's called Up on Your Love. And we wrote that for an artist here in Nashville, kind of a big name artist. And that was one of those weird, like, big collaborations. There's four of us on that song. And since then, one of the guys who was a writer on that song won an Emmy Award for Best TV Song. And another one of the guys has got one in the top 40 on radio right now. anyway, we wrote the song for somebody, and then they cut it, but then they decided not to put it on their record, so they released it back to us, and kind of with the understanding that we wouldn't play their version for anybody, because whatever, just in case they wanted it later, I don't know, but when I got his version back, he was singing it so differently than I had been singing it, and just even the production ideas that they had done on it, just like, oh, like when we do this kind of like a straight ahead rock and roll basher, but you changed it and it's a little poppier, and it's like, yeah, all right, we'll do it like that. So our version of that is way more his version than it was, the idea that I'd come up with in the first place.
That's really interesting. I mean, this is all part of the creative process that certainly I know the listeners love to know about. Not everybody gets to hear or gets to experience how these things are formed, and songs, they're babies, they're works of art, and they all have a story within their story, of how they came about and how they were created, and like you say, really, really interesting that someone played it slightly different, but it was something that you took on board and thought, I like that.
Yeah, and it just fits so much better with the rest of the stuff we were doing. I was like, you know what, I can get behind this. Let's do this.
Definitely. So what's to come? What have we got? What have we got? Any dates in mind?
The next big date is 4th of December when the EP comes out. So that'll be the next thing, and then I do think that we're going to push the song called "Villain" as a single, and I figure 3 out of the 6 songs is probably all we can release as a single. We can't release them all. So those 2 things, I don't know when Villain's going to come out. Early January, we're going to do a big live stream with the band, and we're going to bring in some guests, see if we can't talk some of these Nashville CMT types that we know into giving us a little support, and jumping on the live stream for some surprises that I think will thrill people a bit. So right now we're leaning towards January 7 on that, but we're getting all the logistics worked out, and we'll be able to announce that in the next week or 2 when we're a firm date. And then after that, I don't know, May is what we're hoping to be on the road in May. And
let's hope so. I'd love to see a festival or a gig over here in the summer,
Yeah, that's the idea, to do a couple of weeks here and get warmed up, and then if everything goes to plan, we'll fly over there. We'll if there's a quarantine period, we'll spend that quarantine kind of getting the record finished. The ideas for the record. We'll do a little tour, and on the backside of the UK and EU tour, we'll record the record and do it all.
Where was the idea? Where were you looking to go?
As far as touring? Just wherever the record's doing well. Right now, UK, Scotland, it's starting to bubble up a bit in Scandinavia. So if we can do Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, I'd be excited. I'd love to go to Iceland, but that seems a little ambitious.
No, I don't think so. I know that certainly country music fans and followers are reaching well, they always have been everywhere, but now they're coming to the fore.
Way more now. Mm-hmm.
We've got so many more emerging artists from these countries, loads actually, and they're amazing. So I think you're in good company to be able to go out to these particular areas. I think it's definitely an option.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to get back. I have the last time I was in UK was for the Olympics in 2012. So,
wow,
it's been a good while. So ready to come on back.
Ready to come on back. And so, you personally, you're a family man?
I am. Yep, I got 3 daughters and a lovely wife.
Brave man as well.
I love being a girl dad. I don't know what I would have done if I had boys. I was. Every time we went into those appointments, I was like, please don't let it be a boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it seemed like so much more trouble.
I don't know. It's debatable.
Well, obviously there's issues on both sides of that divide, no question. But being someone who's been involved in kind of art my whole life, I understand how to deal with the emotional stuff and the crying stuff better than I do. Like, it's like, why? Like, how did you break both of your arms? Like that's what I don't want to deal with. I don't want to deal with, like, oh, why do you smell that way? Like, what is, like all the boy stuff? I don't want it. I don't like it.
Oh, don't blame me. There's something very sweet about little girls. There's, and they're also creative and emotional as well. So you're definitely brave. You're definitely brave. But that's lovely. So what do you do in your spare time?
Well, this autumn, I just, not out of want, but out of need, I coached my 9-year-old's football team. It was her first year. And I'd done it for my oldest daughter is much older. She's almost 24, and I'd coached her team, but it had been 10, 12 years since I did that. So that took up a bunch of my time. And I play in a pretty competitive basketball league here. Most everybody in the league, played at university, and I think everybody in that league at one point thought they were going to be a professional basketball player. And this is our outlet to, like, really, take out our frustrations at not being a professional basketball player. So I do a lot of that, and, I've got the home studio here. So I work on music all the time, and I read a lot of books. And that's what I spend most of my time doing.
It's fantastic. I couldn't agree more. Books are the helm of everything in my eyes. It's also where you get so much inspiration for your lyrics, and
I mean, even like silly fiction. I try to do a fiction and a nonfiction so that I don't get sucked into too much stuff. But even if you're reading kind of like a silly fantasy fiction book, like, you can find something in there, like so, like a turn of phrase, especially stuff that Tolkien called secondary creation, like where they're creating whole worlds.
I'm so into Tolkien, so I get you on that.
Well, the fun thing about that stuff is that, or one of the things about that stuff is that they want to make the world slightly different, so they use the same phrase, and they just change it slightly. What's the phrase? This is the one I was reading yesterday, and it was I don't remember what it was, but there was there was a turn of phrase, and he said it a couple times, and I'm like, oh, you're saying that wrong. And then the character in the book said, oh, you're saying that wrong. And he told him the phrase, but it was a different way of putting it together. It's like, oh yes. I remember that. At least the American version of the phrase is let the cards fall where they may. And in the book, such a little thing, but in the book, he's like, let the cards lay where they fall. So it's just like a little.
Yeah, but it
means the same thing, but like it's just like a little bit of difference. And a lot of times in country music, that's what you're looking for. It's like that little twist on the phrase, to make it mean something different.
And sound right and stick in the mind, and for someone to go, that's it.
Right. With country folks out this way, a phrase that you hear all the time, and it's kind of permeated into more urban slang. If people say, well, I ain't gonna lie, and then they'll say something that may be an unpopular opinion. And so that was how that track on the record, the first single came about. Ain't gonna lie. Well, people say that all the time, but that could also mean, like in the case of that song, it's like, well, if you don't want to know if I'm in love with you, don't ask me, because I ain't gonna lie. So like a little twist, and that's what that's what country music's about, right? Just that little twist.
That's great. I think you've nailed it there. I think you're quite right. That's really beautifully put. Oh, thank you so much, Connor. It's been really fantastic to meet and talk with you today. And I do hope we can do it again, hopefully in person sometime soon.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me, Jess.
Of course. And thank you so much for your time today. And I can't wait to hear the new single.
And all right.
The new single, the new EP, and everything that's to come.
We'll make sure it's in your inbox really soon, I promise.
It's on. Great. Right. Thank you so much, and we'll speak soon.
All right, sounds good. Bye-bye.
Hi guys, it's Jess T on countryradio.uk. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and know that there will be plenty more music videos, live exclusives and performances from country music artists across the UK and beyond.